It hasn't even opened for business, and police have already been called to investigate claims of corruption in setting up Victoria's anti-corruption body. It's an embarrassment to a coalition government that came to office promising to root out corruption in public life. And the proposed watchdog is said to be so toothless that the Baillieu government's been advised to scrap it and start again. Lisa Whitehead reports.
When police informer Terence Hodson and his wife Christine were shot dead in 2004, Hodson was about to give evidence in a major police corruption trial. The Hodsons were killed during Victoria's rolling gangland wars that have been linked to 37 murders. Former police detective Paul Dale and another man were charged with the Hodson murders, but the case was dropped.
No one deserves to lose their parents.
This week, after years of campaigning by the Hodsons' children, Victoria Police finally referred the case to the coroner.
It's, a pretty horrific crime that has tainted Victoria's criminal system.
The unsolved Hodson murders have come to represent all that's wrong with Victoria's justice system.
There's been a great erosion of public confidence in the administration of the criminal justice system in Victoria, going back to the Hodson days, unfortunately, and it needs to be restored.
Lawyer Rob Starry represented gangland kingpin and convicted murderer Carl Williams, who was attacked and killed in a high-security prison 2 years ago. He was due to be a key witness in a murder trial.
We've got a coroner's inquiry, we've got an ombudsman's inquiry, we've got internal corrections inquiry, police inquiries, and yet we've had a trial for someone who's been found accountable and responsible for the death of Carl Williams, and yet the other bodies say it's not within our terms of reference to examine other issues, and the best way to do that is through a crime and misconduct commission.
During the violent gangland wars, Victoria's Labor government resisted calls to introduce a single broad-based anti-corruption body to investigate police, public servants, politicians and the judiciary. Ted Baillieu's coalition government came to office in 2010, promising a watchdog based on those successfully operating in New South Wales, Queensland and Western Australia.
The coalition's commitment to an independent, broad-based anti-corruption commission was right, and it was right all along.
But what's disappointed legal experts is the government's apparent U-turn.
It took a policy of extensive inquiries and determinations in relation to corruption, and it took a policy of having a one-stop corruption shop. Now, neither of those commitments that were made at the time of the election have been reflected in this legislation.
The Independent Broad-Based Anti-Corruption Commission, or IBAC, is almost a year behind schedule and is mired in a crisis before it's even begun. It's claimed 2 government workers tried to rig the tender process for a contract to provide security services to IBAC in exchange for $20,000.
I understand there is a police investigation that's ongoing in relation to this matter.
IBAC will only have the power to investigate what's termed serious corruption and matters that are serious criminal offences.
The people who will be let off the hook are people, for example, who've committed minor criminal offences or are suspected of having done so, people who may have committed disciplinary offences, people who may have acted in a way that provide reasonable grounds for their dismissal. All of those people will not be covered by this commission, and interestingly, the corruption commissions in both New South Wales and Queensland cover all of that terrain.
Sometimes very serious corruption comes from 2 or 3 what appears to be low-level complaints, but you're starting then to get a pattern from particular people's behaviour. I wouldn't like to see that being held, being handed back to the police themselves to investigate.
One case the state opposition is demanding IBAC investigate is the apparent campaign last year to undermine Police Chief Simon Overland. A staffer in the Police Minister's office resigned after it was revealed he'd organised meetings with Simon Overland's rival, the Deputy Commissioner Sir Ken Jones, who'd allegedly raised complaints about police command. The affair led to both Sir Ken Jones and Simon Overland leaving the force.
There's clearly been a lot of issues running over the last period of time. They have become a significant distraction to the organisation, and I don't believe it's in the best interests that I continue on.
Under the legislation, IBAC's powers will be too narrow to get to the bottom of it.
We've had one ministerial advisor resign, but we've had no broader inquiry as to his role in the undermining of Simon Overland. Now, the Anti-Corruption Commission, or the body that's proposed for Victoria, would not be able to examine those issues.
Unlike other states, it seems IBAC cases will mostly be heard in secret.
I would have preferred it to be the other way. I would have preferred a provision saying the presumption is that hearings and examinations will be open unless there's a strong public interest in having them conducted confidentially.
You have to be careful not to discredit people's reputation unnecessarily, and I think that's very important. But also, it's very important too that we find out what's going on inside some of these organisations.
The Baillieu government declined 730's request for an interview. The Anti-Corruption Commission isn't expected to be up and running for another 12 months, and a commissioner is yet to be appointed. It seems many in the legal profession see it as a poisoned chalice.
The legislation is drafted in a manner that's so general and in many places so unclear that one might not have very much work to do.
The public really throwing their hands up in desperation, saying what's going on and who is running this whole show.